In this screencast, I'm going to explain a few of the next steps on video analysis so that you'll be able to set the scale, you'll be able to set the origin and an x-axis, and go ahead and set up a position time graph and be able to find the velocity of an object using that position time graph. So our first step is going to be to insert a movie into our Logger Pro document. So choose Insert Movie, and you'll need to navigate on your computer to find the movie. I'm going to do Onion on Conveyor Belt for my analysis. Once you have the movie, it's nice to make it as large as you can. Makes the analysis easier. So here's the movie. Let's go ahead and open our video analysis tools. These are the video analysis tools in this right-hand toolbar. Down here are the controls for operating the movie. This motion is particularly slow, so if we watch it, you'll notice it's slower than some of the other things we've looked at. When you have a motion that's very slow, it's useful to go up to Options and then Movie Options, and you can change how many frames the movie will advance each time you add a point. This motion is so slow that if you add a point every single frame, those points are going to be almost on top of each other, and it's going to be hard to see what's happening. So I'm going to tell it to advance the movie 5 frames after adding a new point. Okay, now I think we're ready to go ahead and start placing dots. So we want to make sure the movie is rewound, then go over to the toolbar and choose the Add Point button. And I'm going to click on the right edge of the onion each time. So I'm going to click to place a point. And the movie has automatically advanced 5 frames. Click to make another point. Click. And we're going to continue on like this. And we see some nice evenly spaced dots, which tell us that this object has a constant velocity. There are some other things here on this screen that give you some interesting, useful information. Up here, these are the frame numbers. So this tells me that I'm on frame 35 out of 129 frames. And if I click, we should see that 35 advance by 5, since I've told it to advance 5 frames at every click. So now it's at 40 frames. This right-hand number is the time, the total time that has elapsed, and this would be the coordinates of positions on the screen, the XY coordinates. Because we're going to want to make a position time graph, we want to do more than just have dots on the screen. We'd like to know some distances and have an x-axis. So the computer program right now doesn't know what kind of distance scale we're using. So I'm going to choose Set Scale. So click on the ruler, and you're going to drag on an object of known length. So I'm going to use the onion, and I didn't actually measure this onion, but I'm going to estimate that the width of an onion is about 8 centimeters. And when placing that green line, you have to click on one end, drag to the other end, and then release the mouse button. So we've set the scale. The next thing is to set up a coordinate system, which is the third button down, Set Origin. When we do that and we come over here, I'm going to set my origin at the very first dot. This is why I like to place my dots first, so that I can put the origin on the first dot. Of course, you can move it later by dragging it around. So let's put it back on the first dot. This yellow large dot here is not the origin. The origin is the intersection of the two yellow lines. The yellow dot enables you to rotate the coordinate system. So if you were doing, say, the motion on an escalator or a ball rolling down a ramp, you would want to line up your x-axis with the actual motion of your object. So my object is pretty horizontal. I'm going to leave it this way. So I have an x-axis, I have an origin, and now we're ready to take a look at our graph. Actually, I'm going to put a few more, let's get a few more points before we look at the graph. So the onion is continuing to progress here. now I notice that the onion, and my dots are all on top of each other now, and that's because the onion has stopped moving. Okay, let's take a look at the graph. So to get the graph, click on the graph which was behind the video. We are only interested in the X motion. So if you come over here, you want to choose X. So this is X position, and on the X-axis we have time. So don't be confused by that. We have X on the Y-axis. Oh, it looks like we have a pattern that looks like a straight line here. And then up here it looks like a different straight line. So I'm going to highlight by clicking and dragging. I'm going to highlight a section of this part of the graph. And I'd like to fit that section with a line. So come up to the top here and choose linear fit. And we will get a best fit line that goes through the part that we selected. And I can see that the slope of that line is 15.28 centimeters per second. That slope is the velocity because this is a position time graph. So the velocity of the onion on the conveyor belt was 15.3 centimeters per second.